Hi, and welcome to this Yoga Without series, and today's class is a yoga without using the arms. So we won't be taking any movements where we move the arms up and overhead, and we won't be putting any pressure on the arms or anything like that either. There will be the option, if you like, to maybe use the arms just to help support the legs or help a little bit with balance, but that's perfectly up to you. You don't have to do that if you don't want. And I've got a couple of props rather, and these are also completely optional, so you don't have to use them if you don't want. They will help if you've got tight hips, as we'll be starting in a seated position. You might want to just sit on a block. You can always sit on a towel as well. It just helps to bring your hips more in line with your knees, so it can be a little bit more comfortable for some people. And I've got a towel because we'll be on the knees a little bit, and again, if you don't want to use a block, you can always just roll up a towel or sit on a pillow, and that also works just as well for lifting the hips a little bit. So if you like to use those, just grab them, put them to one side for now. And when you're ready, just make our way down to a comfortable seated position, any comfortable seat for you. And we'll start by bringing the chin to the chest, and then rolling the right ear over the right shoulder, chin to chest, left ear, left shoulder, chin to chest, right ear, right shoulder, chin to chest, left ear, left shoulder, chin to chest, and then just bring the head back up to neutral. From here, start to make little circles with the nose in one direction. Just let those circles get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then once you can't make those circles any bigger, just switch directions, starting with big circles, and let those circles get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then come back to center. Now leaving your hands just resting on your knees or just down by your side. We'll start to make some big circles with the hips this time, so really just start to wake up the hips a bit. And we'll do that by bringing the right side, the torso over the right side, coming across the front to the left, and then coming back. So just starting with these nice, big, slow hip circles. You can make them smaller if that feels better for you. You can always start with small circles and just work your way up to bigger circles. And then when you're ready, switch directions. Great, and then come back to center. So from here we'll make our way onto our knees. So if you do have quite sore knees, you might want to just grab your towel just to kneel on. Again, completely optional, we won't be here too long. And we just want to have our knees in line with our hips. So maybe pushing the hips forward slightly just to make sure there is a nice straight line. The arms can either just hang by the side, or I find for me it helps a little bit with the balance if I bring the hands to the hips, but it also works perfectly fine if you just let the hands dangle by the side. And we'll start with the left leg, so bring the left leg forward. We want to stack the knee over the ankle. And then just start to pull the heel in and then draw the inner thighs together. So you should start to feel the leg muscles contract. All right. And then tuck the back toes and see if you can lift that back knee off the ground. So we've moved into a bit of a high lunge. You might want to readjust the leg to help with the balance. Maybe just bringing the back foot out slightly if you like. You can play around with that. And then from here we'll take a few dips of the knee. So on the exhale, just dropping the knee towards the mat. Inhale to lift. Exhale, knee towards the mat. Inhale to lift. Exhale, knee towards the mat. Inhale to lift. Then from here, see if you can start to bring the weight forward so the weight is coming over that front leg, and then start to lift that back leg up, bringing the foot out in front of you. So you're just coming into a little bit of a balancing pose here, and then place that foot on the ground. So we're in our mountain pose now. Bring your feet so they're hip distance apart. Again, arms can just hang down by the side. So we'll just do a little exercise with the feet now. Start to really connect the brain with the toes. We do tend to be quite disconnected between our minds and our toes. So just working with that, and we'll also be working with the arches of the feet. So as we stand here, feet hip distance apart, I just want you to inhale, lift all 10 toes off the mat. Notice whether the arches are lifting, and then exhale, place those 10 toes back down. And this time on the inhale, just see if you can lift the big toe, keeping all 8 toes on the mat. And exhale back down. This time keep the big toe on the mat, lift the 8 little toes. You might notice that one side's a little bit easier than the other. And then place all toes back down on the mat. And this one can be a little bit challenging, and I can't do it for both feet, so just see how you go. This time we'll leave the big toe and the pinky toe on the mat, and we'll just lift the 3 middle toes. So this one can be quite challenging. Just notice where you are today. It might be different to if you've tried this before, and one foot might be slightly different to the other. Great. And then just place all 10 toes back on the mat. Perfect. And from here, we'll step back with the left foot this time. Front knee stacked over the ankle. And then slowly we'll dip that left knee down. Inhale to come back up. Exhale, knee towards the mat. Inhale to rise. Exhale, knee towards the mat. Inhale to rise. And then exhale, just place that knee on the mat, untuck the back toes, and step that front knee back. So right on where we started. So we'll do that little sequence on the opposite side now. So this time, when you're ready, just step in the right foot forward, knee stacked over the ankle. And again, start to pull that heel back and draw the inner thighs together so you can really start to feel the leg muscles engage. And then when you're ready, tuck in the back toes, lift that knee off the ground. And we'll take those dips again. So dropping the knee towards the mat. Inhale to raise. Exhale, knee towards the mat. Inhale to raise. Exhale, knee towards the mat. Inhale to raise. And then this time again, start to bring your weight forward over that front leg. And see if you can lift that back leg up. Bring it out in front of you, holding it there, and then releasing it down to the mat, arriving back in our mountain pose. And we'll just take a moment here, notice how the body feels. Maybe taking some deep breaths, just feel the belly expand. And then this time we'll step back with the right leg. Oops. Again, you might find that it helps with the balance, bringing the hands to the hips, but arms can dangle by the side as well. And you want your front knee stacked over your ankle, hips facing forward. And we'll take 3 dips with the back leg. So on the exhale, drop the knee towards the mat. Inhale to rise. Exhale, knee towards the mat. Inhale, rise. Exhale, knee to mat. Inhale, rise. And this time just bringing the knee all the way down to the mat and tucking the back toes and stepping that back foot back, arriving where we started. So we'll move down onto the floor now. So this is where you might like to use your brick or maybe your mat. We'll be coming to a seated position with my legs out in front. So if you do have tight hips, you might find this pose a little bit challenging, and I'll give you a few options that can help you. So we'll be moving into a forward fold, and a lot of the times in more yang, we'll call them yang classes, you use your hands and maybe hold on to your shins or your feet or use a belt. But this time we will be taking a more yin approach, so just leaving the arms to hang down by the side. And what that means is that you may not get as far into the pose as what you usually would. So just bear that in mind. We don't really want to push ourselves in this pose, we just kind of want to melt into the pose. So the first option is just to hinge in at the hips, just come forward, let the arms just dangle by the side. And you can just stay here. So I'm quite tight in the hips, so what helps me sometimes is I can use a block. Just pop it under my sitting bones, and I can just use that, and you can probably notice that I can get quite a bit further into the pose, or it feels like I can as well. Maybe it doesn't look like it. And another option is just to put the block in front of you, and you can use anything. You can use a couple of blankets or books, and you can just prop the heels up and then just come forward this way. So just staying here, whichever option you've decided to take. Being careful not to lock the knees out, so you do want a slight bend in the knees. And we'll just stay here for 2 more rounds of breath. And then slowly just making your way back up, bringing the legs out. You might like to just bring the soles of the feet up and then just window wipe her legs out a couple of times. And maybe just pop them out on the floor. Okay, so from here we'll be taking a wide-legged forward fold. So you've got the same options, maybe sitting on a couple of towels, a block, a pillow if you like. You also have the option to bring a towel or a block under each foot as well, so it works the exact same way as our forward fold. And we'll just bring our legs out straight, start to point the toes in towards the knee. You can sit up straight here to start. And on the exhale, just start to hinge forward at the hips, so we're not moving from the spine, the movement comes from the hips. And just not using the hands again, just leaving the hands down in front of us. See if you can hinge forward a little bit. You don't have to come down very far at all, just don't force your body anywhere that it doesn't want to go. It's just melting into the pose. We'll just stay here for about 3 more rounds of breath. And then when you're ready, this is where you might like to use your hands just to support your legs to come in. And maybe window wipe the legs a couple of times. Or just shaking them out a little bit. So we'll be moving on to our backs now. So just make sure you have enough room behind you, roll down to the floor. So bring your soles of the feet to the floor, knees pointing up. You want your feet about hip distance apart and your arms down by your side. So we'll start with a few pelvic tilts. So just engaging the belly, so really pulling the navel in towards the spine. And as you do this, start to flatten your lower back into the floor. As you do this, you should start to feel the hips and the pelvis tilt up slightly. And on the exhale, just release it back down. You might feel the arch in the lower back lift. And we'll just do that a few times. On the inhale, navel to spine. Just flatten the back into the floor. And then exhale, release. Inhale to tilt. Exhale, release. 2 more times. Inhale, navel to spine. Exhale, release. 1 more time. Inhale, navel to spine. Exhale, release. So now we'll do a few bridge movements. So this is really great for the glutes and also the legs. We aren't pushing into the arms here, so there shouldn't be any weight in the arms. So just stay down by your side. And while we're here, we want to try and keep a bit of space between the chin and the chest. So I like to imagine that there's an apple in between my chin and my chest, so you should always keep that distance there. So we'll start with the arms down by the side, and exactly the same with the pelvis, just tilting up to begin, and then we'll roll the rest of the body up, the torso up. So on the inhale, tilt the pelvis, start to peel the spine off the floor, pushing through the hips. Feel the glutes engaged, really want the contraction there. Keep that gap in between your chin and the chest. And while you're here, keep your spine neutral, so you want to keep your gaze up towards the ceiling. And on the next exhale, slowly roll back down the same way you came in, leaving the tailbone to last. And we'll do that 5 times. On the inhale, lifting the hips up, contracting the glute muscles, keeping your knees so they're tracking in line with the toes. And then exhale, slowly release back down. 3 more times. Inhale, reaching the hips up, holding it here. And then exhale, release back down. 2 more times. Inhale, reaching the hips up, pushing through the hips, engage the glutes. Exhale, rolling back down. Last time, inhale, reaching up, holding at the top, feel the glutes contract. And then exhale to roll back down. Great, and then you might just like to roll the legs out a few times, side to side, release any tension in the lower back, giving the hips a bit of a release as well. And from here, bring your knees back up so they're facing the ceiling. We will take a reclined butterfly pose. So this again is where you might like to have maybe a couple of blankets or your block. But if not, then it's perfectly fine to do without, to see how it feels for you. So we'll bring the soles of the feet together and then just open the legs wide. And you can have the feet out as far or as close to the tailbone as you like. So maybe just play around with the distance a little bit. And you'll notice I've got quite a lot of space under my legs. I do have quite tight hips. So if you are like me, you might like to just have a block under the legs to support them. Or you can use a blanket as well if you've got less space than I do. Or if it feels fine for you just to let them naturally kind of fall open. You'll notice the longer you stay in the pose, the more the legs will just naturally start to open. For me that feels quite nice, but just see what your body's asking for today. And we'll just stay in this quite restorative pose for a few breaths. This will be our resting pose for today, so if this doesn't feel good for you, you can always bring the feet so they're mat distance apart, maybe let the knees fall in, so we've got the opposite action going on. Or you can bring the legs out long on the mat and just take this resting pose. And whichever option you decide to take, we'll stay here for about 5 rounds of breath. Maybe just bringing your awareness to your breath. Try not to change your breath, just notice how it naturally flows in and out of the body. Maybe notice if you breathe into the belly, maybe into the ribs, maybe into the chest. Whether you breathe in and out through the nose or the mouth. And then when you're ready, you might like to start to make some small movements, maybe moving the fingers and the wrists, if you like. You might like to support the legs up, maybe just rolling the back a couple of times, bring the legs in towards the chest, maybe taking a few little movements here. Or again, just window wiper the legs side to side. Might like to just take your gaze from side to side, massaging the back of the head. And when you're ready, just make your way up to a seated position. And that is the end of the practice. Thank you for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you back for next week. The class is without inversions. So I'll see you then. Namaste.